Welcome to the Three Championship Drive podcast on YouTube, hosted by me, Lance Caporossi. Follow me on X at Lance Caporossi, the same way you see it spelled on the screen. And check out the Three Championship Drive podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit that subscribe button over there. And do me a favor, tell a Pistons fan. All right, we got a lot to talk about on this episode of the Three Championship Drive podcast. Isaiah Stewart punched Drew Eubanks in the face after some chest bumping in the tunnel before the game the other night with the Phoenix Suns. So there are a lot of details still haven't come out. So nobody knows exactly what led to Isaiah Stewart punching Drew Eubanks. It's such an interesting story, though, because at least to my knowledge, these guys don't have a history. But apparently, some are reporting that this altercation has something to do with the last time these two teams met. I don't remember. I've watched every Pistons game this season, I think, except for like 3 games where I had other things going on. But I do remember this game, but I don't remember these two really going out on it on the floor because like when Isaiah Stewart goes after someone, it is something you notice because he has such a reputation for being a bully on the floor. So the Phoenix Suns, they released a statement saying the attack on Drew Eubanks was unprovoked and acts of violence such as this are unacceptable. We unequivocally support Drew and will continue to work with law enforcement and the NBA. So Isaiah Stewart was arrested and later released with a citation. I thought it was pretty odd that the Phoenix Suns would come out and say that the attack was unprovoked because these two were chest to chest talking before Isaiah Stewart threw a punch. So clearly something provoked Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart, he did cross a line for punching Drew Eubanks. I mean, I don't know what was said or what was going on between these two, but throwing a punch, putting your hands on somebody, that is definitely crossing the line. But let's not pretend that Drew Eubanks is 100% innocent in all of this. The NBA media is painting Isaiah Stewart as a bully and that Drew Eubanks was pretty much having a cup of coffee before the game when Isaiah Stewart barged in and started swinging. And we all know that didn't happen. Something was said that pushed Isaiah Stewart overboard. I can't imagine these two bumped into each other and Drew Eubanks was making fun of him for an extension or making fun of him for playing for the Pistons. Something had to have been said where it got really personal for Isaiah Stewart to decide, hey, I got to punch this guy in the face. That is what I mean. I don't want to speculate too much. I don't want to just throw Drew Eubanks under the under the bridge or whatever. I don't want to do that, but I have to imagine this dude was talking some mess, saying something personal, and that's why Isaiah Stewart decided to punch him in the face. That's the only thing I could think of because I can't. It's really just hard for me for to imagine that Isaiah Stewart walks in and just says, "Hey, I got a problem with you," for no reason whatsoever, and just start punching him in the face. The other thing about this, I don't really understand, and I don't like. Kind of makes me cracks up. Shams Charania said that Drew Eubanks barely flinched. It's either you flinch or you don't. That's what it is. There's none of this barely stuff when it comes to it. Maybe I again, I don't think Isaiah Stewart probably connected all the way, and that's not really what this is about. But if you see the fist coming, you're most likely about to dodge it or something. I have no idea. So maybe that's why he didn't connect fully because I could only like getting hit by Isaiah Stewart, who did grow up boxing. I gotta imagine he knows how to use his hands, and he seems like the type of guy. If he connects, you're really gonna feel it. I cannot wait for the video to come out and show what really happened, and I really do hope there's audio and we hear the conversation between these two. And I'm really surprised that nothing has leaked out about this incident between Isaiah Stewart and Drew Eubanks. So an NBA executive thinks the Pelicans will have to choose between Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. And these are two guys that I have a ton of respect for. I would love for the Pistons to go after one of them. I don't think Zion Williamson, the cost might be too much. So I would pass on him. I'm not going to look at trades. I'm not going to try to match salary. I'm just going to talk about the one guy I really think the Detroit Pistons should go after this offseason. And again, it's not Zion Williamson. I would rather see a stretch four more than a guy that plays in the paint. I do think him and Cade, that'd be a lot of fun in the pick and roll, and he would be one heck of a lob threat for those guys. And I am a huge fan of Zion. I do really like his game. I just don't think between the two of these, he is a realistic target for the Pistons. So if this rumor is true, I want the Pistons to pounce on Brandon Ingram. He would be a great addition to the Detroit Pistons, who are in need of another shot creator and playmaker. The three best shot creators on the Pistons are Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Marcus Sasser. These are guys they are very good at getting to their spots on the floor and finishing. So that's why I call them the three best shot creators on the Pistons. But the Pistons need another guy they can rely on to go get them a bucket. And that's exactly what you get with Brandon Ingram. Now, some fans will point to his defense, but I'm here to tell you his defense isn't that bad. He's not a traffic cone on that side of the floor. And according to Pelicans fans, he has taken a step forward as a defensive player this year. And his defense rating isn't that bad. He's still a net positive when he's on the floor when it comes to offense and defensive rating. And really, nobody is going to ask Brandon Ingram to defend the opponent's best player. That's not his role in the NBA. He is an elite scorer. He is lethal from the mid range. He can score from all three levels. But really, what I want to talk about before I get into all that, well, let me just talk about the offensive player, really. He can help Cade out by giving him an outlet as a catch and shoot player where he's hitting 38.8% of his catch and shoot threes. He can also help shoulder the load offensively and allow Cade to play off the ball, which is a role Cade has thrived in this year. And I just think if you can get another guy like that that can take pressure off of Cade and Jaden Ivey and allow them to do other things off the ball while this guy can create, go out and get the guy and let him do that. Let him cook in Detroit. I also think he's a guy that would be here for a long time. There's something about the way he carries himself on and off the floor that just screams he's a Detroit Piston. But really, what I want to talk about at Brandon Ingram's games, which I think is I don't wanna say it's underrated, but I think it's a part of his game that gets overlooked because we don't think of him as this type of player, and that's him as a playmaker. He is a very good playmaker. 81.5% of his assists are considered high value assists, meaning they lead to either a made three-pointer, free throw attempts, or baskets at the rim. That tells me he can read a defense and make split second decisions. He's averaging 6 assists per game, but I think if you had him, Cade and Jaden Ivey on the floor, and I would say Asar Thompson and Jalen Jordan, we'll just go with that lineup. You don't really need with those three guys, Jaden Ivey, Brandon Ingram, and Cade Cunningham. You don't really need a traditional point guard on the floor because they can all create for themselves and create for others. Like I said, Brandon Ingram is a very good playmaker. He knows how to find the open man, and he's very good at it. I think back in 21 and 2022, everybody he passed to, their field goal percentage, it was I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but their field goal percentage with him on the floor was much higher than with him out on the bench. I just think we didn't want Zach Levine because he's a little bit older, he's injury prone, but Brandon Ingram gives you that elite scoring along with the elite playmaking, which would just be fantastic for this team. There's just something that is missing from that, and I think another damn near all-star would help this team out tremendously, and he's had success with the in the playoffs as well. He's a very good player. So, Cade Cunningham, is he worth the rookie max extension? I can't believe this is even a debate amongst Pistons fans. We have all seen the flashes of Cade Cunningham And before his injury, he looked very much like an all-star. In those 10 games, and I'm not counting the Denver Nuggets game because he only played 10 minutes before he sat out on before he sat out with the knee injury. He was averaging 28.7 points per game, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal, while shooting 53% from the field, 37% from the three-point line, and 85% from the free throw line. If that's Pete Cade Cunningham, he's worth every penny of that rookie max extension, which I believe would be 5 years, $225 million. And he's going to get it no matter what. I don't know why fans are debating whether he should or shouldn't. Some of the comments from fans have been he has a poor motor. He's the third best player on the Pistons. He doesn't give enough effort on defense. And it's all of these things, which is why I don't understand the fan base because it does seem 50-50. But Cade does have all the tools to lead a team. He just needs a better roster that fits his skill set. He needs a coach that isn't going to just put him in pick and roll and ask him to be this heliocentric. There needs to be some type of creativity offensively to get the most out of Cade. And once you do that, I really think you're going to unlock different parts of his game and he's going to look that much more efficient. I'm all for giving him the rookie max extension. He's going to get it no matter what. He's not going to be the first rookie that just says, "Hey, I don't want 225 million." My biggest concern with Cade Cunningham, and I've said this before, he will get that rookie extension. I believe it would start in the 2025-2026 season. He would still be on his rookie contract in 24 and 25. My biggest concern for him is he'll be 23 next year. Then he'll be heading into that 5-year extension. And I just don't trust this front office to actually build a competitive roster around him. And I'm afraid that while he's on that rookie max extension, the losing will continue to happen. There will be a failure by the front office to build a competitive roster around him. And we're going to watch him play, you know, stellar basketball, all-star level basketball during the regular season without getting a taste of the playoffs. And I think at that time, Cade would be 28 when that extension comes up, and he's going to want to be out of town because, hey, I've been here since I've been a rookie. You haven't done anything to help me. So why should I trust you by signing another extension? I do, like I said, that is my biggest concern with Cade Cunningham. And I'm torn when it comes to the fan base debating over this because what more do you want out of essentially? I mean, I know it's his third season, but he missed 70 games last year. What more do you want out of him? I mean, I want the efficiency to go up. I want him to hunt his free throws more. But other than that, I mean, I think he's done everything that he possibly can to put this team in the best position possible, which really isn't that good because of the roster around him. Now, we have seen a few moves, and it's still too early to tell if those moves will actually help the Pistons going forward or whether they're going to continue to lose like they have been in the last 2 games have suggested. It doesn't matter who you have on this team. There's just something else internally going on that this team can't get over. But I think Cade is worth it. Now, if you were going to ask me, is he a true franchise player? That's a different topic and a different question. And I think that could be more debated versus whether he's worth the rookie Mac extension. Because again, we've seen those flashes from him, and that's what you want guys when they sign that rookie max extension. You're not basing it on what they have done, but what they possibly could do. But back to the franchise player question, that is, I think putting Cade in that title of franchise player, it's fair because he is the number one overall pick, and expectations with that title are usually ginormous and they're through the roof. And I've kind of struggled with this a little bit more because, as any other fan, every time there's a game played, like I experience the highs and I experience the lows. And if something bad happens, my thought process changes where I'm like, maybe he can't do it. So I'm still kind of on the fence whether he's a true build everything around me franchise player or the guy I love to compare him to is Joe Johnson, where even though he was the number one option offensively and he was the guy that most teams game plan for, it was very much a team effort and how that's how they got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So if you're going to try to build around him like he's Luka Doncic, I don't think he's that type of franchise player. But if you build around him like he's Joe Johnson, he's that type of franchise player where, yeah, he can close games for you. He can lead your team in scoring. He can be the de facto number one playmaker on offense, but you need to have certain guys around him that can carry that load from game to game because he's going to need help. That's how I kind of define him as a franchise player. Let me know if that makes sense to you guys watching or listening. So I have one final topic, and it's, should we be worried about Cade Cunningham? So Cade Cunningham recently said that he is not 100% and he's still dealing with some type of, you know, nagging issues when it comes to his injury, which I believe is the knee, the shin, probably the ankle as well. Let's just throw the whole leg in on it. I get it because those injuries are starting to pile up, and I understand why fans are worried about his future with the team and his future as the main guy. Look, I'm not going to blame Cade because of the injuries. They happen. They're a part of the game. They're a part of all sports. I do want to blame the Pistons and the coaching staff for mismanaging his minutes at the beginning of the season when he was returning from a shin injury that required surgery. He should have been brought along slowly. I looked back on the game logs, and a lot of those games he was playing 35 or more minutes per game. And obviously, there was a 28 game losing streak going on. There was a handful of blowouts. I have no problem with him playing 35 or more minutes. It's just at the beginning of the season when you're returning from injury, why not put him on kind of like a load management just for a few games until he can get back to 100% and kind of feel things out and see and figure out what he can do on a basketball floor at a full-time basis. But instead, we just got him, hey, you're going to play 35 or more minutes and we're just going to throw you to the wolves. I do have a problem with that. I felt like he really should have been brought along slowly. I am concerned a little bit that the injuries do seem to happen every single season because every time I watch Cade, I always have this feeling like he's just one step away from experiencing another major injury, and that bothers me. I don't want to have that with the former number one overall pick, the guy that's supposed to lead the franchise to the promised land. I want him to be healthy. I hope that in the next offseason that he really does work on his body, that he works on his conditioning, and that he gets those up to where he can withstand an 82 game season. But I'm not so concerned with the injuries where I think it's going to be a Grant Hill situation, but with all of the injuries that have happened and him saying I'm not 100%, part of me does lean that way more than I did a couple of weeks ago when he returned from the injury. So I don't know. I'm just all over the place when it comes to his injuries because there is a small part of me where it's like, it's probably not going to work. This is probably going to be something we deal with every single season as fans, just wondering and questioning whether his body can hold up for an entire season. But the louder voice inside of me says he will figure it out. He will be fine. The injuries will eventually be behind him, and it's going to be smooth sailing from here on out. I do believe this will be a conversation that continues until Cade Cunningham goes through a season injury free. And again, every player is a little banged up throughout the season. Nobody is 100% all of the time, but it's concerning when the player has dealt with a knee injury, a shin injury that cost him all but 12 games of his second year, and he's dealt with some other injuries here and there. That's where it gets a little concerning for me. Thank you guys for listening to the Three Championship Drive podcast. Do me a favor, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. After you subscribe, leave a review, drop a rating, vote in our polls, but more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.